Alright guys, let's talk about something I never really thought that I needed to think about until now. Spider-Man and Zatanna. Yeah, Spidey. The spider geek in a red and blue onesie, and Zatanna. The magical spell-slinging powerhouse in fishnets. On one hand, you've got obviously Peter Parker swinging around, cracking dad jokes in mid-battle, but Zatanna, on the other hand, with her elegant stage performance and spell-casting abilities like it's a Broadway performance, would honestly make me just think that these two would be an absolute vibe. But it's not just because they would be fun to watch. No, no. Their chemistry would go almost so much deeper than just magic and tricks and like the web shooters and all of that. But with all that said, yo, what's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of specific characters from Marvel and DC or vice versa that I honestly think would just be either an absolute vibe, get along with each other, or in specifically this kind of situation, I think would just absolutely love each other in more than a platonic way. So, if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and give me other ideas that you guys would like to see for more videos in this kind of series, whether it's Spider-Man, whoever else, in the comment section below, and I will make sure to get to them as soon as possible. But, with all that said, let's actually get started into this discussion. Now, the first point that I would honestly like to make about why I specifically think Spidey and Zatanna would absolutely love each other is because of their shared sense of humor. Both Peter Parker and Zatanna are known for their quick wit and absolute charm. Peter's quippy one-liners during fights would perfectly complement Zatanna's playful, theatrical kind of persona. This would be a very just interesting thing to see because we know how these two characters are very separately, and getting these two together would be an absolutely hilarious kind of situation, most specifically due to the fact of, as I said, Peter be doing one-liners out the wazoo, and having somebody as almost as playful as he is, with more of a knack for the theatrical, the dramatic, and all of that, would be absolutely hilarious to kind of just see the chaos that would ensue automatically, and they'd constantly, almost immediately, just be bantering and challenging each other, creating a very dynamic, filled laughter situation with just absolute laughter and fun for anybody to be holding to that. These would be like a very comedic kind of couple. Peter's going to be having a lot more fun, specifically with someone that's going to be able to dish out almost probably as many jokes as he can, and specifically on the magic side, just kind of using that magic to make even funnier jokes because she has a lot of things that she could just randomly pull out in the funniest kind of situations and scenarios that will just kind of make the joke even funnier on her end, no matter what she's honestly trying to think about. Obviously, kind of just going on to the next point, they're both heroes, so they both have a very large commitment to helping others, which is always going to be a main fact in any of these videos that I specifically do, unless I eventually do one where it's hero and a villain kind of pairing. But specifically with this one, these are both heroes, so they both have a very good commitment onto helping others. Both are deeply compassionate people who put others' needs above their own. Spidey follows his obvious mantra, which I talk about every video that I do this, which is, with great power comes great responsibility, while Zatanna uses her magical abilities to selflessly protect and heal whoever she can, being probably one of my more favorite heroes that not obviously everyone knows about, that doesn't, read comics or just watch specific shows, because when it comes to the big name heroes, Zatanna is usually not going to be on that list unless you watch things like Young Justice or a couple other shows here and there. You actually know enough about comics to kind of just know her name off the bat. But their shared dedication to just being selfless heroes would be a very strong bond for them. They could actually, help each other out. And Peter's usual big problem when it comes to relationships is either the fact that, he can't tell them what he does for a living, being Spider-Man, or he tells them and they can't actively, handle it. Whether it's MJ or whoever else, they usually kind of, want Peter to either choose a side, or if they are fine with him being Spidey, they, still want to make sure that he's spending enough time with them or whatever. Obviously some things, make sense, but sometimes there are just regular problems with, him having to keep secrets or not always be there. But if his partner is also a hero, it makes the situation a lot easier because, they can actually do stuff together that helps out quite a bit and just really is an easier thing for them to kind of get along with in every specific way. Now, moving on, it would be the most interesting thing about this kind of pairing. The fact that this is basically the entire just like meaning of the like phrase opposites attract. This is a very big relationship of magic versus science. Spider-Man represents the science and logic of basically everything, while Zatanna just completely embodies the mysticism and wonder of magic. Their contrasting approaches to problem solving would create a very fascinating dynamic as Peter's tech-savvy mind meets Zatanna's spell-casting abilities. They'd be fascinated by each other's worlds, leading to almost a mutual respect and admiration, and they'd probably actually, be able to really help each other grow with Zatanna putting a lot of magical spells on Peter's suit, or just like Peter helping Zatanna, upgrade whatever she needs to upgrade, or him just kind of like using whatever knowledge that he just happens to have to just do whatever he possibly can. And that would just kind of be a very interesting conversation to just be a fly on the wall about, just letting them just kind of rip at it and just like go on, have whatever kind of thing that they're just trying to convey and just talk about, which would just be very interesting in the least because of the singular fact of Peter obviously has dealt with magic before. We have people like Doctor Strange and all those other magic users, which Peter's obviously knows and has to deal with on a most likely, regular basis, just in Marvel alone, because magic still obviously exists. But the way that Zatanna does it is a lot different from the way that Marvel does it, and it is very interesting to talk about the least. But, again, moving on, kind of just making sure that I don't really just start yapping a lot too much because I know I have the tendency to do that. But when we talk about Peter Parker, we have to talk about the main thing that is a part of his character, the tragic loss that he has, which is always going to be talking about. Peter has lost people like Uncle Ben, Gwen Stacy, and while Zatanna has faced the loss of, her father, Giovanni Zatanna, in various iterations and like various ways, both carry the weight of personal tragedy and use it as a driving force to do good. This shared understanding of the loss would obviously deepen their relationship and connection and create a very profound form of empathy, which would just raise the relationship even higher and just kind of give us more points to really think about. Peter has lost so many people and usually is able to kind of make sure he keeps his head on straight. And specifically when we're just talking about the way that Zatanna has lost her father, I could really just think about, Young Justice, where her father literally becomes the embodiment for Dr. Fate and kind of has to, go off and do that specific thing, which is honestly kind of usually a fate worse than death because he's around, but he's just not going to be able to even, come out to really speak to you. He's basically gone, but not dead, which makes it a lot harder. So having to deal with something like that would just be a very interesting dynamic to really think about and talk to with someone like Peter, because if anyone understands the meaning of loss because of something that, couldn't be stopped, where it was either your choice, their choice, or some kind of decision that literally had to be made to protect everybody else, Peter is someone that could understand that full-heartedly. He has had to make plenty of various decisions and choices in his life that really have shaped the way that he is. And if we're just talking about him having to, give away his memories, or just have to deal with losing his entire family in multiple iterations of comics, it just makes for a very interesting topic to talk about in almost any real big situation. But in all fairness, these two really just being together would be able to lift each other's burdens off heavily. If we're just talking about Peter usually often carries the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. And yeah, I usually talk about Peter is a street level hero, but obviously he's not. And one of the comments literally made me laugh when I was reading through them a little earlier, just talking about Nick Fury saying, "Boy, shut up, you've been to space." Peter is obviously technically a street level, usually deals with the more street level aspects, but he is known basically on a world scale, and he is a very popular hero for the entire world to kind of look up to. And Zatanna is someone that would be able to, use her magical charisma to kind of help loosen him up and make sure that he's not like putting all of this big burden on himself and ruining or just kind of like putting him down in more of a mood than he could possibly usually be in. Zatanna's positivity and Peter's resilience would really just kind of balance each other out, creating a more healthy and uplifting relationship that both of them could build on and actually not just go full chaotic mode like Peter has done before, kind of just really helping them be more cordial and more normal when they're having to deal with, all of the stress that comes with their basic job. Like, you're just kind of really thinking about it really kind of, makes me really enjoy kind of making these specific kind of videos because, thinking about all of the ways that so many things could change if something like that could possibly happen, which obviously most likely never going to happen, but you love to imagine. But yeah, just, thinking all about this kind of really just gets me thinking about like how they would be like, fighting just side by side and why honestly it would just be so epic. Spider-Man's agility, intellect, and web shooters like paired with Zatanna's powerful magic would make them an almost formidable team. Peter could handle the physical threats while Zatanna neutralizes the magical or supernatural foes, and this teamwork would be visually stunning and strategically almost unbeatable. The ways that I could really just see this really going around by Zatanna using whatever kind of magic to give Peter more surfaces to kind of bounce off of or just like do whatever kind of things just to make him do a lot more crazier moves would just be very interesting to think about. And really just talking about this entire thing makes me just really think about the fact of no matter how strong they were and like no matter how strong they are and no matter how incredible their fighting styles are and how decently known that they could be, they are still both underdogs in their own respective universes. Obviously, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, despite his strength and intelligence, is often underestimated by his fellow heroes, just talking about specifically in world. Obviously, in our world and like just thinking about Spider-Man, he is one of the first names that you think about when you think about comics, but in their own universes, Peter, like Spider-Man, is usually kind of not looked at as one of the more upper class heroes at every given point in time. Like sometimes, yeah, he's an Avenger or whatever, but most of the time, people kind of just think about him as like a kid or more of like a youngster, or if we're talking about like an older Peter, it's more of like varying different situations. But similarly, Zatanna, despite being one of the most powerful magic users in the entirety of the DC universe, doesn't always get the respect they deserve. Like, well, specifically, she deserves. Like, this shared underdog status could really help them relate to one another and really grow on a deeper level, creating a romantic potential and chemistry that would just be out of this world. Just like thinking about the fact that, Peter is much like a down-to-earth person, paired with a person like Zatanna, who is glamorous, confident, and has a demeanor that would really create the perfect, again, opposites attract love story. Peter would admire Zatanna's grace and strength, while Zatanna would be drawn to Peter's humility and heart. One of the main things that almost everybody has to love about Spider-Man at any given point, just about thinking and talking to him, and just really having to get to know him the longer that you do. These two specific things would just be so, like, all of these things would just be so interesting to think about. But the most interesting thing to think about in a situation like this would be Peter's curiosity about magic. As I was talking about yesterday, this would be a very opposites attract kind of relationship, but in this situation, in this scenario where Peter's scientific mind would be fascinated by Zatanna's magic, and he'd likely pester her about questions on how it works, and maybe even ask like if he could even learn magic in any kind of situation. It would be a very interesting thing to think about Peter Parker gaining magic and using that kind of magic while being Spider-Man. Zatanna, in turn, would obviously probably enjoy Peter's curiosity and might even teach him, as I said, a trick or two, strengthening their bond, because a Peter Parker with magic would be absolutely terrifying. It would be absolutely just horrifying, honestly, because of the fact of he's already strong enough, and giving him more abilities that would make his jokes even hit harder would just be absolutely hilarious to think about. But in all fairness, that's why Spider-Man and Zatanna would absolutely click. I mean, come on. Science meets magic, wit meets charm. These two absolute legends who never stop fighting for what's right would be a perfect pairing. Plus, could you imagine Peter trying to impress Zatanna by learning backward spellcasting? This guy could barely keep up with his high school Spanish classes and so many other things, but honestly, that's part of all of the fun. But let me know. What do you guys think? Do you think Spider-Man and Zatanna would belong in the ultimate what if power couples list? Or am I just shipping them a little too hard? Let me know down in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy that video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Some bad time, some bad channel kind of things waiting along for, other heroes that you guys might get around to think about it. But, if you get it, you get it. You guys could probably imagine where this next video is going to be going to. But if you guys did enjoy it, make sure to stick around. Peace.